Hey, Tony Gas is here. Now, the last couple of videos where we were talking about a couple of the celebrity incidents where I was breaking it down and just kind of dispelling some of the ideas that come to mind when you see these celebrity couples break up. And we will continue to do that as it pops up. And some of them people ask me to do, I don't know who the people are, or just something just so out of my wheelhouse that I can't really touch on it. But I want you to realize that when it comes to this looks compatibility, this is very, very real. But it's also very nuanced. And this is something that I kind of have developed, so to speak. I'm pretty sure looks compatibility may have been said before, but I've never read it or studied it. It's just something I've developed over the last 15 years in my business as a life coach, relationship coach, and sometimes matchmaker. And one of the things you have to realize is that this is set by America's media. Media meaning music videos, movies, and magazines. And inside of this, there is a scale of 1 to 10. That's why people call a 10 a dime piece. And the world treats us based on how it sees us. This isn't something that I have made up. This is something that I'm just reporting live about. And it should not be news to anybody, but sometimes we can't see it because beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And it also depends on self-image and how you see yourself. So all of that factors into the looks compatibility. So there are times where there may be a man that a woman says this man is a 5. But when that man becomes a millionaire, that man is now a 9. And Tyra Banks did a study one time on the street, send people out on the streets of New York City. And I don't know if y'all remember this way back in the day, but whoever producers or whatever, they went out on the streets and they had a sheet of paper. And on that sheet of paper, they had a white gentleman, and his face looked like he was about 250 pounds. And it just had like a fake name and maybe a job title. And they went to like 10 women and they said, what is this man on a scale of 1 to 10? Like every woman said a 3. That was the average number. It might have been a 2 in there or 4 in there, but the average number was 3. I remember this. I never forgot it because I'm in this space. And I also went on Tyra Banks in 2009, and she showed my book, What Daddy Never Told His Little Girl to the World. This for the new folks that don't know, I've been out here doing this for a long time. And this is based on my knowledge come from my studies over the last 15 years working with clients on 6 different continents. My youngest client being 16, my oldest client is 73. So when I'm talking to you, I'm not just another talking head on YouTube. I'm somebody that's really in the trenches doing the work. So they showed all these women this man, and they gave him a 3. Then they had another piece of paper with the same man, with the same information, but what they added was his yearly salary. Now they went to women again, another 10 women, and the women gave the same man, who now has a yearly salary of $325,000 listed on the paper, he was given a 9. The same exact picture that was just given a 3, he was given a 9. Now, if you are bold enough and you could dress decent enough, do this same thing. Get somebody's picture, put it on a sheet of paper, put a name, age, location, and go out and do this test. Go out and ask 10 people, ask 10 women, and then get another sheet of paper with the same information, but add a job title and his annual salary, and see what number you get. So that type of thing throws off the looks compatibility scale. And that's why I always tell people, when you think about looks compatibility, go back to middle school and high school. And yes, people grow and people change, but at our core, we're still the same person. So somebody could grow into their nose, could grow into their ears, grow into their head, but you're still the same person. And when you think about looks compatibility, this plays a large role in these relationships that are breaking up, because a lot of times they're not actually a fit for one reason or another. And looks doesn't just mean the face. It also ties in some other things depending on the situation, which could be fame, money, other factors. Is very nuanced, and that's why you almost pretty much have to do case by case. It's hard to do a one size fits all when it comes to this. And so somebody could look like a 10, but they could carry themselves like a 3 because they don't know that they're seen as a 10. And somebody could look like a 3 and carry themselves like a 10. So there are some women who are not traditionally attractive based on the beauty constructs, the beauty standards in America, but because of their confidence, it adds a couple numbers on the scale for them, on the look scale for them, because of their confidence. And the same with some men. There are some men who may be called a 4, 5, or 6, but because of his swagger, because of how he dresses, then women may see him as an 8 or a 9. And this is what you have to understand. So what happens is, if a man is a 4, but then he gets millions of dollars, that man is a 9 or a 10. So now, as a 9 or a 10, based on the average consensus, the average opinion of women, he now qualifies for a 9 or a 10. But then if he goes and he gets a woman who is seen as a 5 or a 6, that is now, they are no longer looks compatible. Even though he was a 5, he went and got with a woman that was a 5, but his money made him a 10. So now women who are a 10 want him. But when he goes and gets this woman that is a 5, which what we talk about, I call it nickels wanting dimes, is he goes and get this woman that is a 5 on the look scale, but she may have money or connections or fame. So he puts her as a 9 or a 10 in his mind, because he's given her credit for her connections or her money or her fame or her following. But then when they get together, those things, after he benefits from those things, her connections and all of that, it no longer means anything to him. And now what he's looking for and leaning on is her attraction, his attraction to her. But if he now has an inflated sense of self, he looks at her as less than, because she doesn't look like the women that he now qualifies for because of his money. So this kind of hard to understand, but that's why I am the creator and originator of it, because you got to really be tapped in and locked in to go from case to case and to be able to analyze it and really break it down. And it's other factors that go in there. So we're going to do a class on it here eventually, and we're going to talk about it and try to get an understanding of it, because what it helps you do is it helps you be realistic about who wants you for you and who wants you for what you have or what you can do for them. So what I'll say in closing, in a final example, is like, if a man is 5'10" and he looks decent, let's say he's an 8. Well, if he's an 8 on the look scale, but 90% of women want a man 6 foot or taller, then that may make that man seem like a 6 or a 7. If that man is single and he happens to become a millionaire, now a woman who is a 10 will all of a sudden feel like she can be with him. Whereas if that man who looks like an 8 but does not have money and does not have height, meaning 6 foot or taller, that woman who is a 10 will not want that man who is an 8. So if she gets with him, it's because she has ulterior motives because he's a millionaire. And that's why what you see is, if you notice, there's a lot of unattractive and, dare I say, ugly, but I would rather say looks challenged pro athletes who, when you look at them minus their money, you may give them a 3 or a 4. But when you look at their girlfriend or their wife that they met after they became famous, that woman is oftentimes an 8 to a 10. So now the only thing that makes that man qualified for that woman is his money. And that's what's unfair about it. And that's why there's not a lot of trust between the sexes when somebody gets some money. And one of the things I want y'all to pay attention to is also pay attention to women who may not be seen as traditionally pretty. Meaning, if we had to do this unfair look scale, we may give these women a 5. Well, when they start a clothing brand or a hair care brand or a makeup line and they make $1 million in a year, now all of a sudden you will see men who may be an 8, or women who may be an 8 or a 9, or who would normally go for an 8 or a 9. Now they're going for these women that they would give a 4 or a 5 before they became a millionaire selling this product or in this business. So that's why you rarely see a millionaire woman, regardless of how she looks. You rarely see her single by force. She may be single by choice, but you rarely see her single by force, because there's always a man that's willing to be with her if she's willing to be with him when she has money. And the same goes the other way around. So it's really the money or the fame or the notoriety that has thrown a monkey wrench into organic and natural looks compatibility, which would be based on liking who you look like, so to speak, meaning like who likes you, meaning like who's on your level, like who you are compatible with. And the money and the fame and the notoriety, that's when things get skewed, and that's when people get hurt, because now there's ulterior motives in this connection, and it's no longer natural, authentic, and organic. So we'll do a class about this where we could go a little deeper, answer some questions. But what I also would say is this not something that you really want to explore too much, because it's not foolproof. Every case is different. And also, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So there are standards. Like if I said, hey, let's say I said Denzel Washington. Studies show that if a person is a 9 on a scale of 10, that they're a 9 to every race. That's what it has been said to be the case. And oftentimes, if you notice, in most cases, let's say we say George Clooney. White women as well as black women think that George Clooney is handsome. White women as well as black women think that Denzel Washington is handsome. Let's say Jennifer Lopez, Sanaa Lathan, or Angela Bassett. White men as well as black men think those women are attractive. So when you think about it, there are standards to beauty. And typically the standards are unanimous and everybody feels that certain way. But then there are certain looks that are an acquired taste where their race may or may not appreciate them, and then another race will feel the opposite. And so that's, again, the nuances to this. And this is why you can't really think about it. You can't really get caught up on it. You just have to be able to use wisdom, knowledge, understanding, discretion, and discernment when it's time for you to connect with somebody. When you can connect with somebody, and you got to ask yourself, do I have some things that this person may want? Do I have money? Do I have notoriety? Do I have connections? Do I have a position? And I'm not speaking celebrity realm, but even in your city, if you are powerfully connected, now you got to be very leery when somebody wants to date you, to make sure that they're bringing enough to the table, that they're not just coming to benefit off of who you are, where you are, what you have, who you know, etc. So, hey, this Tony Gaskins. We'll pop in. We'll touch on it a little more. God bless you. We'll talk soon.